Hi everyone, welcome back. We are
Eclectic Soul.
damn it, she did it again. It's probably because I hesitated because I wanted, to have that dramatic effect.
Well, it's also we have two podcasts too. Sometimes
Yeah,
we
do.
confused.
We do. I do not.
We get confused.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, sometimes.
It's okay.
But yes. But can you guess who we are? I'm Jen.
And I am Jen.
Yeah. But don't worry. It's okay. It's not that late, but I'm tired.
It's actually earlier than we
usually record. Because normally we don't record until like after 11. And it's actually like 9:45 our time.
Yeah,
so
which is early for us.
It was just early for us. So I've had one cup of tea in. I don't have any tea right now because I drank it all. Jen's probably still sipping on hers.
I like it that much.
That much.
Yeah.
So, but like we're reading from the little
little.
So we're reading from Rhys's point of view.
Yeah.
And so we started with where she the one story of where she goes in and has to fight the worm, and we finished on the story where it was stolen kisses. So some of you might know these stories, some of you may not, but we'll try to guide you through them. Some of them kind of made me chuckle. And then some of them, of course, I was eye rolling her a lot with certain words. So it's like, him, whatever. Pussy! So, yes, this is an R-rated 18 and up, no children, because I cuss and I'm gonna cuss because I am me.
Well, and also, I mean, I would assume if you are reading the series, you would probably be an adult anyway.
Yes.
So. And I'm on our last video, I did put a disclaimer, and I will put one on this one too, that you probably shouldn't watch this video if you haven't read all the books,
right?
Because we're gonna spoil it. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah, read all the books that are out now. You don't have to worry about anything else. So, what did you think of the first one you read? Which I can't remember the title.
Yeah,
sorry.
So I should probably follow along on here so you guys know.
Yeah.
Because I have been putting in the link, so if you guys want to obviously read the stories, you can read the stories so you can follow along with us. The first story is called Piece of Me. And this is the one where she goes through the first trial, which is the Midgard worm.
Yes.
And it is from Rhys's perspective.
Yes.
And I don't know, we do these because I think it's a fun way of reliving the book again.
Right.
But you're seeing it from
another perspective.
And also when you read the first book for the very first time, just like with Feyre doesn't know what's going on. Like,
exactly.
She doesn't know about the world at all.
Right.
And she's discovering it just like you're discovering it. So you know very little. So when you go back and listen, or read this or reread the book again, you know so much more. You have a different view of things, so
a little more input.
Mm-hmm.
Your perspective on certain characters can change.
Absolutely.
What I've found interesting, even though you knew it in the book, but hearing him say it, how he was the only one that bet on her.
Yeah,
he bet it all on her, and he would do it again.
Mm-hmm.
He was rooting for her. And then to hear Lucian again, yell out, go to your left. I think that's what he says. Or is it right?
It might be right. Go to let me see.
But how ingenious is she? Stacking the bones, covering herself in the mud and filth. We read that from the first book. But to see Rhys see it
I have to interrupt you. I was wrong.
What?
It's called One of Us.
One of Us.
That's so that's where we started. One of Us. That's
One
the
of
name
Us.
of the name of the So the Midgard worm. Yeah.
Yeah. And for her to, for him to see.
Yeah, to your left.
To your left. Oh, I was right. And that for him to see her in action and hear what he's saying, because we saw from her perspective in the book.
Right.
But how exquisite she becomes in his eyes, how smart, how this human came here and is going to win, is going to beat this. And just the way that and I don't want to use a lot of words from the story, because if you go and read the story and you haven't read the story yet, I don't want to ruin it for you, because it literally, he pulls you into it again, and you just want to keep rooting for her.
Well, going back to, you were talking about him betting on her and being the only one that bet. I mean, obviously we knew that from the first. Because,
right.
But what you see from his perspective is he has a very different perspective than Faye in general, because he talks about her humanity,
right,
and he talks about it in a positive way,
right,
like she's gonna be she's not gonna be as arrogant, maybe, or rely too much on their on their abilities, because how the Fae, knowing now about Fae,
right,
Fae are used to having magic, and they think they're, a lot of them think they're better than humans and things like that,
right,
and that he thinks it's actually a positive thing that she's a human, because she will be able to handle the situation better, because she's not used to having magic, and she's not arrogant,
right,
and she'll be able to process and get through that situation with her mind alone.
Yeah, her wits. Yeah. And that's really, that's the last time, I think, is when she's before what happens. These little stories, the insight of seeing it from Rhys's perspective, that we really realize this is the last time that we see her as a human, doing humanly things in a Fae world that sometimes would even be thought of as humanly impossible.
Yes.
So it's her survival mechanism inside her just kicks in, because look what she had to do with her own family above, the mountain and in human land.
And I think that's why too, like, she does so well with the first task, because that's more in her element. You can't use anything else in order to get out of that situation. You have to know how to survive,
right,
in order to get through that. And that's why I think that's really obviously we're going to get to the other tasks eventually,
right,
but that specific task is the one she does completely alone. Like, she doesn't have any assistance, and I think that's because it is like he says, right, it's very,
right,
it's in her element, it's who she is,
right.
And the thing that stuck out,
she's a hunter, she's a survivor,
she's had to use her mind to make traps and
think on her feet.
But what's interesting about him betting on her, because obviously the reason why he's betting on her is he's giving that explanation about her humanity and all that, is that it shows his character.
I think it speaks a lot about his character,
because knowing what we know now after you read the series, right, you realize that Faye, and obviously I'm not speaking for every single one, right, but would say the majority of them do not think very highly of humans.
No.
And so that just sticks out to me, because that would be something that most everybody there, and obviously it shows, he's the only one that bets on her,
right,
is that they don't, that's, humans are really nothing. Even Tamlin, we could go into that whole discussion. Tamlin doesn't really think that highly of humans, and I'm not talking about from the specific situation. I'm talking about going back to the first book and what we know about him, and how we learn about his history
Right.
with his family.
Right.
And obviously we know that he doesn't get along with his family, but his family fought against the humans in the war.
Right.
And he even alludes to the fact that he's really not that he's not a fan. I'm not saying he hates them, but he's like, whatever, like
he wouldn't go out of his way to
Right.
save them.
Right. And obviously, yes, he takes care of, her sisters, but again, he's not doing that because he thinks highly of humans. He's got his own reasons for that.
Yeah, he's buttering her up. He wants to make sure that when he needs her the most to break this curse, so the superficial bitch under the mountain would leave him alone.
Right.
But to me, knowing that Rhys betted on her,
Mm-hmm.
that spoke volumes for me, because not only did he see her as an exquisite human being,
Mm-hmm.
and the compassion and the drive to want to stay alive comes so easily for her because of what she's
Right.
been through. That's also when you really start seeing how much he really cares about her too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he can't really show how much he cares.
Right.
So if you're gonna bet on the woman you love, why not?
Mm-hmm.
If it's gonna bring you extra money so you can take care of her or take care of, and he only talks about his friends, her, and Valeris.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's fun about this chapter too.
Yeah.
And he talks about this when you get to chapter 54 in book 2,
Right.
where he's confessing everything about how he felt and what was going on in book 1.
Right.
Where he talks about he thinks that was the first time he fell in love with her, which was which was the Midgard worm scene.
You're right.
Where she reminds him of his friends, like she reminds him of Cassian and Valeris and all of that.
Right.
And he brings that up in that scene, and you can see that when we go through this about how there was a couple of times
Right.
where she flips him off,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other part where she throws the bone,
Yes.
and then Amarantha's white
dress
gets all messed up. Those were the things that reminded him of his friends, because his friends would do something like that.
Yeah, because they're
really,
just as cheeky.
yeah.
Yeah. Because that's being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not hiding. You're not holding it back.
Right.
You're showing true grit.
Mm-hmm.
Your true expressions, your emotions. She shows empathy when she needs to. She shows compassion when she needs to. And you find that out from book 1 all the way to where we end it before we get to the last book. But you see that with Rhys even in these stories, because he's slowly over these stories falling deeper with her. And plus they are mates. He knows. He already knew they were mates.
I think by this point, I think he's pretty sure, but it hasn't clicked. So like, we know again from reading the series that you can know that somebody is a mate, but there's like a period where you have the mating bond is like it clicks into place to where it's like like a present thing, like a physical thing.
Right.
So that hasn't happened yet, and a lot of people debate that it's because she's still human and it's impossible for that to have happened because she's not Fae. They're still mates, but it hasn't clicked. So, but again, there's nothing official. It's just assumed because it does click eventually, but she's a Fae at that point, right?
Right.
So, but I do think it's, I think he knows by this point. I don't think he knew initially. Probably not until this point. Because he was just seeing like glimpses of her and he didn't know anything about her and all that stuff. So I don't think he knew at that point, but I do think he knows now.
Reliving where she got bit by that creature before it died. The creature finally found her and clumped on her and bit her. And
yeah, and she got the bone. Her bone was protruding in her arm. Yeah.
Coming through that, but then seeing it from his perspective. Oh God, and what he did with her. Oh man.
Well, we could move on to the next one because I think we're alluding to it.
Well, this is still part of that one.
Yeah.
You know, where he fixes it and everything.
That's the next.
So it goes into the next one?
So Piece of Me, which is the one I said originally. Piece of Me is the one where they make the bargain.
Oh.
Which is the next story, right?
Well, okay.
So, yes. Do you want to continue what you were going to say?
So, yeah, he was toying with her. He grabbed her arm, which had to be painful that one time. It was like, you know, to get her to snap out of it. He wants to fix her arm, but he wants it to be on his terms and her terms. But how do you get her to trust him enough to want to do that? So he tries to make a bargain with her. But after he goes through a bunch of torture on her first, and she says, "Fuck you, get out."
This is a lot.
Get out. Yeah. I mean, you
have to remind yourself, because you have to think back to old you, right? When you first read it, right?
Right.
And we didn't know anything,
right?
You know, Feyre doesn't know anything about Rhys at this point,
right?
And all we're going off of is the rumors about the Night Court and what she knows about the Night Court, which is what everybody knows about the Night Court at that point,
right? Which
is they're evil and. And that's the front that because remember, he's protecting Valaris, nobody knows it exists.
Right.
Right. So she doesn't know. She just thinks he's, this evil person.
An asshole. She calls him that.
That, he tortures people and all this stuff. And, she has these visions of the Night Court and how horrible it is. And, he's, and even during that Midgard worm thing, he tries to keep a facade on. She thinks that he's still evil and all of that. So, and he's still playing that up when he goes to make the bargain, right? Right. He does that a lot under the mountain, where there's, he has to do these horrible things, and you can tell he doesn't want to do them,
right? But
he doesn't know how else to get everybody out of the situation. Right. He's looking at her as the only way out that he's had in 50 years. So
it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. So in the beginning, right before she ends up under the mountain,
right?
He views Feyre as the only way out, right? Because the curse, that whole thing is gone, right?
Right.
So he's thinking this is what he does, right? He thinks the big picture, and that's just what he does. And so he's trying to find a way to get this whole situation resolved, right? Right. And since Feyre has this deal to get through these trials, his whole thing is, okay, this is the only way out that I see. So I've got to make sure that she wins this. Right. And he tries to rile up Tamlin as much as he can, because there's yes, even if Feyre wins at the end and Tamlin is free, that doesn't fix the situation, because that the deal she made is only to help the Spring Court. That's it. So he wants to fix the entire situation. He wants to free everybody. Right? So once Tamlin is free, Tamlin's the one that has to kill Amarantha. Right. So he's trying to get Tamlin mad, because he knows Tamlin has anger management issues. Right. So this is all, right. He has this plan, and so, but he can't, he also has to play the game with Amarantha too. So he has to pretend that he's evil, so that they have like their little camaraderie together, right? Where she thinks that, okay, he's just as evil as I am. He's still on my side. He'll still do what I say. Yeah. So she has to play that. Right. He has to play that up, but at the same time, he has to make sure that he's also riling up Tamlin, and that she's able to get through these trials. And so, this bargain, right? He's just, there's all these things that he does throughout that where he's trying to do both of those things at the same time. Usually everything he does is to either create more problems, but at the same time kind of try to find a way out of the situation.
Right.
And he knows Feyre because, going back to bonds and stuff like that, people that share a bond are similar.
Correct.
And he knows that Feyre will do anything
to save
Tamlin, right? And that she's going to be very stubborn, okay?
Right.
And so he has to, he ends up hurting her. Yeah, he does, because she's dying.
Right.
She's slipping away. And so he's trying to keep her fight, and he brings that up throughout too in many of the stories where she's losing her momentum. She's not herself anymore, and he's trying to get her out of this.
What would Tamlin say about you?
Yeah.
What would Tamlin think about this? He uses that as a weapon, but it's to keep her fighting,
And it's because she doesn't think of herself. She never does.
No.
She always thinks of other people.
If I remember correctly, I think they're both INFJs in the...
He's an ENFJ.
He's an E because she...
I don't know what I don't remember.
But I think one of them's the same as me.
An INFJ? She might be the INFJ, and he's the ENFJ.
So, I just thought that was rather odd, because, we are kind of selfless.
But if you think about it, Rhys is the same way.
Yeah.
So everything he's doing for Valaris.
Right, to protect Valaris and his family. Right. The only family he has.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, but when he yanks on her arm, that kind of like knocks her a little out of it, because that's like shock.
Mm-hmm.
But she's running a fever. She's sick, and he says, well, if you want to wait for that fox, you think Lucian's going to be here in 5 minutes after I leave, 5 days after I leave. He really digs it into her to where she finally says yes to the bargain. However, she bargains with him on the bargain, because the bargain he wants 2 weeks, and she's like, no, 5 days. Yeah. After he's attempting to winnow out, she stops him, and then she goes, 5 days.
Yep.
And he's like, you want to bargain this bargain? It's like,
but he's happy.
He goes, I think he says 12 days. And she goes...
Or 10, maybe.
10 or 12. I think he said 12, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You can look and find out. And she goes, a week. And he goes, deal. So, yeah. And then...
10 days.
10 days?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then
she says a week.
Yeah. And then... after he fixes her arm, and he puts the tattoo on her left arm up to her elbow, and it's got the eye on there, and she's like, what is all of this? And he's like, and then he rubs it a little bit about, I wonder what Tamlin would say about it, And she's like, get this off of here! I'm sorry, that's kind of funny. I don't care what Tamlin thinks, because you know how I feel about Tamlin.
Oh yeah, but again, he anything to piss Tamlin off is a good thing.
Oh yeah,
because he wants Tamlin to be absolutely furious.
Yes, and Tamlin doesn't get furious until like the very last moment, which is pretty sad. But we'll get to that bridge when we get there. But to me, this whole time in these few stories that we went over tonight, Tamlin, to me, is just a big pussy. He don't care about anybody but himself. It's like he's already given up. The next story we get into, the Stolen Kisses, was that couple of stories. But even that, just by the way his behavior is, you would think if you love someone, I said it with the first book, and I'll say it again. If you truly love somebody and you know they were in harm's way, and you know that you could get them out of harm's way, that you have enough strength, enough power, enough control to do so, that you would want to take that person you love and get them out of harm's way.
Let's come back to this. I have so much to say about that, but I want to talk about it when we get to the stolen kisses part, because that's really when this is going to come up. But I want to come back to that.
Okay.
I want to come back to that because I have a lot to say about that.
Well, I got a lot to say about him.
Well, good. We'll say that. So, do you have anything else you want to say about the little bargain thing that they made?
I think it's still cute.
It is cute, and he's happy
Yeah.
that she does make the bargain, because it shows he's always trying to get her emotion out of her, to rile her up,
right?
Because he wants to keep her as herself, because that's her being herself,
right?
And she's not giving up,
right? And also, it starts to form trust.
Mm-hmm.
So.
There was a little tiny short story called The Bargain, but this is basically when he takes her to the party and shows the tattoo. So he's like declaring the bargain tattoo to everybody there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives her fairy wine so she doesn't have to endure any of the crap that's going on there. A lot of people, you were saying a lot of people didn't like that. I actually, knowing that she is the only human in the room, and God only knows what's being said about her, what's being said to her, what she may overhear, what she may be seeing, maybe other people being tortured around her because, the curse bit has come and gone. It's so she doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
And
you know what?
I think that because he wasn't hurting her, in a sense, he wasn't trying to take advantage of her. I think that was the best way he could protect her.
Yeah.
Before she was, sent back to her dungeon, her little room that she was kept in, which was in the dungeon.
Yeah.
So she didn't have to remember any of it. So
yeah,
because but it's funny because he puts her in this little swanky dress.
Yeah.
Barely covering bits and parades her around on. But he does it for a reason, because he wants to piss Tamlin off.
Everything is done for a reason.
He wants to piss Tamlin off. He wants Tamlin to see that she's been marked to get him mad. So he would stay mad, stay fired up, and do something.
Yeah, but he also does it too because it would be more believable for Amarantha.
Right.
He has to make it look like he is an evil person and that he's doing this stuff to her. Right. So it's, again, he's playing both at the same time.
Yeah.
And, people are right, absolutely. The whole situation is not a good situation. No. You should never drug somebody. You should never take somebody's, choice away. He's making her walk around in this outfit and, he forces her to take the wine and all that. Absolutely, that's never an okay thing to do.
No, but why
in a situation?
Yes.
If this isn't a normal situation, we're not sitting in a bar somewhere.
Exactly.
It's
not a Mickey. He's not going to take her home and rape her or abduct her. He's doing it to protect every single human. Well, not human. Every single fae under that mountain and her.
Right. I mean, it's a situation you're already losing in the situation, right? Everybody is already being tormented. Everybody is a slave there.
Right.
So it's not like, he's taking, really, essentially, he's not taking anything away from her. Nobody has anything already. You're already starting at zero.
Right.
So again, yeah. And this is his character, his personality in general. I mean, he's very consistent throughout, right? Like, everything he does, there's always a reason why he does it, because he's always thinking of
10 steps ahead of people.
Right. And a lot of people, they think of like, okay, well, he's manipulating the situation. Yeah, he is. But manipulation isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, manipulation only becomes bad is when you do it with the intent to hurt someone.
Absolutely. In the real world, there's not a lot of this kind of manipulation.
No.
Because it's like, how many, situations are you really in where you have to think of the greater good and, you know what I mean? And most of the stuff that you're being manipulated on is like, it's for selfish things. Like, people want something and they're manipulating. So, yeah.
They want something in return.
Right.
Where the only thing he wants in return is everyone's happiness.
Yeah, he wants to get out of the situation.
Right.
And he knows he's the only person that's going to do anything.
He's the only one that can. He's the only one that can leave the place without question.
Well, he still has to get her permission, but yes.
But she sends him to do things.
Right.
And while he's out, he still tends to other people. He still makes sure other people's okay. Other people is doing this. Other people is doing that. He still goes off and gets whatever she possibly might need. Mm-hmm. But he may go to her and say, well, I heard this from so-and-so or through this. And she might say, well, go find out what's going on. Well, that could have been just a lie, just for him to get out, just to go check on people. Because he does have his own city he needs to take care of. He does have family he needs to take care of. He's got troops he needs to take care of. There's other people, I keep saying people, but, we know what we're talking about. There's too much, and plus it gives him a chance to see what's going on around to where he's at, who he can, that hasn't been brought underneath there, that is protected, that he can come up with ways, or it gives him a chance to breathe. He's out, he's flying around, he's cleaning, getting some clarity. Okay, I got to do this in order to get this. I need to do this. I got to worry about this. Mm-hmm. I still can't let them find out about this. And it gives him a chance to just, so he goes back in there and keeps his wit about himself. How many times he's bite his tongue in that one, because he wants to root out loud for her, but he can't. He can't show that. So he swallows what he's thinking, and he grips his hands in his pockets so people can't see it. No wonder he walks around with his hands in his pockets all the time.
I know he does that all the time.
I know, but
it's actually kind of good. I mean, it's a good way to hide.
Yes,
because you look really like cool and like, oh, nothing bothers you when you do that.
Yes,
but at the same time you're hiding your hands, so you can put a lot of. Because so the next one that we read was called Trust Me, and that is the one where the second trial happens
with Lucian strapped to the floor in chains.
Yeah, and they've got the blades coming
down at them and at her,
and she has to read a riddle,
and she's panicking like Panic at the Disco. Let me tell you, all kinds. Talk about anxiety from hell when I heard the dramatization of this, but then hearing it from his point of view, and I'm like viewing it, and I'm going, oh my God, yeah, you didn't know she couldn't read at that moment, did you?
Yeah, he thought she was gonna be like, oh, this will be easy. She'll be fine. She just has to,
No, she's freaking chomping at the bit because she couldn't read. And he can hear her. He can feel her. Mm-hmm. And it took her a minute. He had it solved in a minute. It took her a minute just to sound out 5 words. Not even correctly.
Yeah, she didn't really know what she read.
Right, and she couldn't understand what she read. Because she doesn't read. That's not something that she was taught. She was very young when her mother died. She didn't go to school. Imagine how much trust 2 people start building between them when she just goes and reaches for a lever of anything because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, well, Lucian's yelling at her too. Like, do something.
Do something.
He's gonna die.
Right. And and she didn't know which, but she was going to reach. She reaches for the middle one, and shooting pain came through the tattoo. And she's like, and she pulls back. And she goes and reaches for the first one. And shooting pain. And she reaches back, and she started looking around up there, and she connects eyes with him.
Because she knows it's him.
And she goes and and shooting pain. And she's like, and she goes, reaches for the third one, no shooting pain, and she was able to pull it. That started building trust, because even though he could not verbally tell her what to do, he was able to send it through to her, even though it was painful. But it was like, don't do that. That's like, you know, don't do that. You're going to kill him. You know, it's going to be the worst thing for everybody. You know, because that is your friend. And she does view Lucian as a friend.
And what he says to her afterwards, right? She literally has like a panic attack.
Yeah.
She's like bawling, and she's freaking out because she almost died and she almost killed Lucian. And he basically starts talking to her in her mind. And he's like, you know, you need to get up now, and you need to stop crying, and you need to...
Don't let her see you
Don't
cry.
look at Tamlin at all, and just look right at Amarantha and look at nothing else. And then after you do that, then you need to turn around and you need to walk out of there. And then when you get to your cell, then you can...
fall apart. But don't let her see you cry. Don't let her see that she's broken you. And you, with seeing this from his side, even though you know this is what he says in the first book to her, because she's telling you what he is saying, and you know, now hearing it from his perspective, that moment, she felt that she could trust him, that he can't be as bad as what other people say.
Well, at least makes her question. Right? She's like, okay, he's protecting me, he's trying to help me, but why? She's not clear as to what's going on. But she does realize that she kept her alive. So.
But there is, and you stop and you analyze it. Okay, he healed my arm. We have a bond now. This agreement. Because he healed my arm, he kept me alive. He could have let me die. No one else came to help me, and now he's helping me again. To me, I would be second guessing why. Why is he helping me? I feel like I can trust him, but what does he really want?
Right. Yeah, I think she still thinks he's playing a game, which he is. Yeah. He is playing a game.
But he's playing a huge game to protect everybody.
Right. She just doesn't know what his intentions are. Is he helping me for good, or is he helping me for bad? She doesn't know that. Right.
But also, what if that bitch, I'm sorry, but I don't like saying her name, but that bitch finds out that he was helping her? He would be on the shit end of a stick.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a big no-no.
But, I mean, throughout a lot of, I don't even know what stories. I know there was multiple. But he does say that a lot where it's like, oh, the last one especially, the one we're going to talk about. Where he's like, I would rather take the punishment than her. Right. Because his punishment is basically he's going to have to...
He's got to sleep with her.
Right. And convince, her that he's all about her and all this stuff like that. Where if she gets punished, it's going to be torture. Right. So, and that's why he makes her get her shit together at the end. Right. Because if she shows that she's broken, that Amarantha is going to be like, oh,
I won.
Yeah, I can now I can play with her and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And torture her and do more to her. So, but yeah, sad though, but she didn't get that benefit because she still has one more she has to go through.
Yeah. Which we didn't read tonight.
No.
All right, so I believe we're at the last.
Yeah.
The last one we read tonight, and which is called "Stolen Kisses."
Mm-hmm. I wonder when them kisses were stolen.
This is the scene where Tamlin is able to get away from Amarantha, and he finds Feyre, and he takes her behind a tapestry into this like little secret room, and they, he's basically they're gonna have sex. Obviously, that doesn't go through all the way, but that's the scene from the book.
Mm-hmm.
But it's from Rhys's perspective, and so
I'm sorry, but you claim you love this woman, and instead of whisking her away and out a door and getting the hell out of Dodge, you want to take her behind a tapestry, a quiet little nook, and have your way with her.
You would think he would at least say something. Like, he would be like, "Are you okay?" And like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? Like, have a discussion, something.
Are you okay? Are you hurt? Did you get hurt? How's your arm? Something. Oh my God, you healed so fast. Something. Hello, you watched what she's gone through. Or, by the way, thank you for saving Lucian. He's my best friend. Nothing but, oh, I just want to kiss you. Oh, I just want to put my dick in your pussy.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I mean, obviously he doesn't say that.
No, but that's
right?
basically what he wants. He's a narcissistic, self-righteous prick. He's only thinking about himself.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how you can even argue another point. Like, there is nothing. This whole situation, there's no way you could be like, oh, well, he's trying to help her in his own way. No, but I'm saying certain people argue.
Sorry, but
others, not in this situation, but some people argue like his behavior in other situations where it's like, well, he thinks he's helping her in his own way. There is no way.
Nothing he has done in any of these scenarios, in any of these books, has it been up until the one book where she had to fly away. That was the first time he ever helped her, in a sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I will give the fact that he did bring Rhys back to life. Fine.
Okay, so that's two.
Okay, but again, we could even, I don't want to go into that right now, but we could even argue, his motivations for that. But this particular situation, there is no help at all in this situation.
No, he doesn't help her.
I don't even understand what he's even thinking.
He didn't ask her how she was doing. He didn't do a sigh of relief and just hold her.
I know.
He didn't even hold her.
I mean, hell, he didn't even say
hello.
He said,
I love you. I'm glad you're okay. Nothing like that.
He says it at the end when he leaves, when Rhys finds them. But he doesn't say, like, you would think the very first thing you would say to somebody you would show, like, like emotion and, like, you know what I mean? Like, you would think.
You would think.
But, he does that in the second book, too. If you remember, it drives me nuts. The second book, remember, in the second book, right? She gets taken away to the night court, right? She comes back. He does show, like, a little bit where he's, like, he freaks out because she went to the night court and she thinks that something happened. But, like, within, like, the first, like, minute, he's like, I can interrogate you. Interrogate you. You've been in the night court.
Okay,
boom.
This is a woman that you claim you love, but you want to interrogate her.
Drove me nuts. That's all he cared about.
Hello, can we go back and listen to the episode we recorded where I thought he was a complete douchebag? Because of that? I'm like, if you love someone, you need to show that person you love them. You need to tell that person you love them. You need to really have the emotions and show it on your face, show it with your body. You don't have to have sex. You grab a hold of them and you hold them so fucking tight that maybe they can't breathe for a second. And you just, a body can tell when another body is happy to be held. Their body language, it doesn't have to always be verbal. You could kiss her on the fucking forehead and just hold her and then just whisper, I'm so glad you're okay. Something to that effect. Nothing he does when they go there shows that he loves her. Nothing he does shows any type of, I want to get you out of here. I love you so much. It's all about sexual gratification for a narcissistic son of a bitch who only wants to get his jollies because she
is gonna die.
Is either gonna die or he wants her to think he's still there for him, but it's because she loves him.
Mm-hmm.
She is the one showing the love. She is the one doing it. And I'm sorry, but we can't always show you narcissists and you people that don't want to show love, don't want to talk, don't want to communicate, don't want to do any of that love all the time. It gets tiresome. It gets boring. It gets frustrating. It's just painful. We need it reciprocated in the same manner. We need to know that you care to have us in your life. We need to know that you care enough that if something happened to us, you want to know that we're okay. We need to do that. You need to do that. And when he does not do that to her and does not show that love to her and only wants a piece of fucking ass, I'm sorry, you're a douchebag. But again, she's infatuated with him. Again, she's in love with him.
Well, I think she thinks she's in love with him.
Well, yeah. But still,
yeah. But she's a caring person. She cares more about other people than herself, right? Clearly, we saw that with her family, right?
Yes.
Her family doesn't do anything to deserve the what she's done for them, and it's the same thing with Tamlin. It's this repeating cycle of she keeps supporting people who do not deserve it. I think, and again, this is just my opinion, but I think Tamlin doesn't think she's going to survive, which again, I think shows the opposing views of Rhys and Tamlin, right? Because Rhys thinks that she can make it through, and there's a way that they can get out of it, where I think with Tamlin's situation, he doesn't actually believe in her. And I think him just wanting to have a quick moment with her and have sex or whatever is showing that he wants to like say goodbye. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is like the night before the third task, right? The very last task that this happens, right? So he's almost saying, oh, I know you're gonna die, right? You're not gonna survive this, so we might as well have a moment. That's how I look at that situation, where he's basically declaring, I never believed in you to begin with. Which I think makes the situation even worse.
Oh, so they class Farah as an ISFP.
Okay.
Rhys is the ENFJ. Yep. Who's the INFJ is Gwyneth. And there's one more. Oh, the serial. Me and the serial are the same.
Well, that's kind of cool. He's a prophet. He's a prophetic.
And I'm a prophet.
I mean, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I was just being facetious. And so Tarquin is also an ENFJ. I'm trying to see what fuck twat is.
Watch, he's like probably me. Even though I don't agree with that.
ISTJ.
Oh, I'm not that. No.
But no,
But I seriously think that's what was going on in his mind, because I can't, for the life of me, figure out what his motivations would have been, other than, okay, it's the last night before the third trial, right? And the third trial ends it, right? And he's basically like, okay, she's not going to survive this. This is the end. We're at the end of this thing right now. So we're gonna have our one last little moment, and that's it. I don't think he ever believed that she was gonna survive it.
That's sad. That's sad
and
to
he's a
think
coward.
that way.
You know, he's a coward.
Well, of course he's a coward. Most narcissists are cowards.
He does, obviously, he doesn't do anything for
They
her.
don't know how to take responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, he shows it even with Lucian in that moment when they get caught. You know, how Rhys basically just scares him into getting the hell out of there, right? Mm-hmm. And he even says he didn't even put up a fight, nothing. Like, you know, someone's like saying all of these things to you, you would think that you would have some sort of a reaction. You would stand up for yourself. You would stand up for Feyre, something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just gets scared for in the situation, and he just backs off completely and doesn't do anything.
Because most narcissistics are cowards. They act tough.
Mm-hmm.
They want to control you, but they are mostly cowards. They do not own up to their shit. They don't take responsibility for their actions or the words that they use. They're basically cowards. They expect everybody else to tend to it or handle it or finish it.
So what I wanted to say that I was saving,
mm-hmm.
right, is of all the people that had the most power
mm-hmm.
under the mountain, it was Tamlin.
Exactly.
So there's absolutely no excuse
mm-hmm.
as to that you could use that would convince me that you could say
mm-hmm.
to defend him in this situation, because yes, Rhys has a lot of power because he's played his little game with Amarantha and makes her think that
he's
evil and that he's on her side to some extent.
Yes.
But I think she loves Tamlin in her own way. You know, she's a twisted, evil person. Okay?
Right.
So obviously, I don't know if she's actually capable of love, but she is obsessed with him. She's infatuated with him.
Right.
So he has the most power in the situation.
He has 50% of his power.
She's not going to hurt Tamlin.
No.
That's why she uses Lucian. Lucian's always the one being tortured all the time.
Right. So if she's not going to hurt Tamlin, and Tamlin has 50% plus of his magic because she's stolen everybody else's magic, he has strength of beast.
He could have done something.
He could have done anything.
He could have tried. Yeah, I think it with Tamlin, people get confused. They think that everything is very black and white.
It's not.
People are not black and white, and I'm actually kind of glad that, you know, he's written that way, because usually in books, you know, it is more black and white, right?
Right.
His characters are more, you know, in the fantasy realm.
This author is extremely good at writing these characters.
People are not black and white. I mean, just because somebody has narcissistic tendencies does not mean that they're an evil person. I don't think Tamlin is an evil person.
No. He's misguided.
Right. But again, it doesn't excuse the situation. And I think people, you know, try to come up with all of these reasons as to why, you know, people need to understand him, and you know, people are just too hard on him. And the truth of the matter is, if we could take anybody and come up with excuses as to this is what happened, this is why they're the way that they are, and that to me is stupid and pointless. You know what I mean? Because that doesn't excuse his behavior.
No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't make him, you know, suddenly a miraculously wonderful person, or even slightly better, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, he has issues. I don't think anyone's arguing that point. We could sit here and say, okay, yeah, he needs therapy, and maybe if he got therapy, he would be better. Sure, great. But that's not the case. That's not the point of what we're saying. I mean, yeah, we know the King of Hybern is horrible and evil.
Oh my God, right? Yes.
And nobody's sitting here going, okay, let's try to understand him. But if you really want to sit down and think about it, we could do the same thing with him. I could be like,
exactly.
I totally understand where he's coming from. He grew up in a world where everything was taken from him, and he thinks that, you know, humans stole that from him.
And he wants it back.
And so he feels like, you know, it was taken, and he wants his stuff back. See, I just did it. I just tried to see someone his perspective. Now, it's the same thing. You can't do that. Right. That doesn't make the King of Hybern suddenly a better person. No. Because we understand where he's coming from. And I think people are getting confused because they're doing that with Tamlin, right? They're going, well, look, he did this, and look, he did that, and oh, you know, his father was this, and his father was that, and you know what? All the characters
his father,
whether we think they're good or bad,
right.
all have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They've all gone through shit.
Mm-hmm.
We all
do.
They all have bad issues with their families and, and this and that. I'm sorry, everybody has to, everyone's responsible for themselves.
Exactly.
And he's made the choices he's made.
Exactly.
That's it. You know, he dug his own grave.
And narcissists clearly do not take their own responsibility. They blame other people for the reasons that things happen.
Right.
You know, I mean, look what he did to Rhys. Him and Rhys used to be best friends. And he knew where Rhys's mom and sister was going to be. And he told his father and his brothers that. And look what happened.
Right. And again, this is classic Tamlin. This is what he does, right? He's a coward. So even if you argue that, okay, he did it because he was young and because, he has this relationship with his parents and his father and all this, that's why he did it. But he made a choice. He did it because he was scared. He was a coward. This theme keeps coming up all the time, right? Mm-hmm. He makes decisions. Maybe he thinks he's doing it for the greater good, whatever the case may be. But in reality, when you look at that, it's because of selfish reasons. He's scared and he doesn't want to hurt himself.
Right.
And so he takes the easy way out, and then other people get hurt, and that's what happens. And he does this over and over and over again. And
the only time that a narcissist, and you have different degrees in narcissism, right, different levels.
He does clearly care about Feyre, and I do think he cares about Lucien clearly. The scene that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. When Rhys puts the images in his mind, where he shows Lucien, all these horrible things happening to Lucien, you can tell that Tamlin is disturbed by that. Yes. He doesn't want Lucien to get hurt, so he does care about him.
Yes.
Well, and also in her case, I think it was the first person that she's ever had in her life
that gave her attention like that.
It gave her attention, but she didn't have to survive. I mean, she's been taking care of everything. Right. And he's a control freak, as we know later. I mean, you see it a little bit, right? But in the beginning, right, in the first book, that's a positive thing to her. Right. Because he's just completely taking care of everything. Right. And she's never had to deal with that. But obviously, the longer she's with him, right, she starts to realize that that's not really who she is, and he's very controlling and that sort of thing. Right. Another scene that comes to mind, too, that shows his cowardice, again, which he does all the time, is when he sends her away, right, in the first book, right? Mm-hmm. The curse is supposed to be, up in a few days or whatever, and he could have kept her there, right? Mm-hmm. But Rhys comes, and he scares Tamlin, because Rhys wants to save Feyre's life, right? Mm-hmm. And so when he discovers that Feyre's there, because he didn't know she was there, he scares Tamlin to get him to send Feyre back. And Tamlin, what does he do? The same thing he does in this scene we just talked about. Yes. Which is, he's a coward. He doesn't fight. What does he do? He actually gets on the floor and he begs Rhys. Because he's a coward. He's not going to put up a fight.
Not to say anything, because if anyone found out that she was there, they would try to kill her.
Right. And what does he do? He just sends her away.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah, we should probably end this
video. Yeah, we should, because it's been 2 hours now, and I don't think you want to listen to us for 2 hours, unless you want to, I don't know. But I'm starting to lose my voice, and I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I need to eat something.
So, on that note, thank you for watching and listening to us babble. Yeah, just kidding. What is your take on these stories, if you read them? What's your input that you have to offer? What's your perspective? Share them with us below in our comments, or join our, if you have Facebook, join our Facebook, or like our Facebook page. Leave some comments there. Rate us if you would like. Like and subscribe to our channel. We're also on Instagram, so follow us there. Leave comments there if you would like. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. That's Jen. I'm Jen. We're Eclectic Soul. See you next time. Good night. Bye. Take care. Much love.